To view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We also ask that you mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelists when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Members of the public and applicants are not allowed to use the share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance, and the host will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nation, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that apply to the property, permissions to extend or alter lawfully non-conforming uses, and consents to sever properties to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, your address, and your email address, because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body, in the event of an appeal, will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government has recently amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of a third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. As of November 28, 2022, only the applicant, the Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs, specified persons and public bodies as defined in the Planning Act are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. The hearing procedure is as follows. We'll call each item in the order listed in the agenda before dealing with any deferrals on this afternoon's agenda, and proceed in order, starting at item number 20. Making submissions where your application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with a presentation if they desire. Where the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to address the committee. And the committee may ask questions and then take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and the clock is shown on the screen, and you will be advised to wrap up when you reach the 5-minute mark, if applicable. When addressing the committee, please start off by clearly stating your name and address, especially in the virtual world. That's important to start off with. And please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. On a contested application, meaning that there's someone here to speak in opposition, other matters are contested by written letters, etc. But when there's someone here to make a presentation and speak to the matter, then the applicant or agent goes first, makes their presentation. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals made at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if it's being substantially revised, in order to both ensure that the application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application have been informed of the changes. Then other parties, other individuals, either in support or opposed to the application, will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they finish their presentations, and when all finished, other speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has an opportunity to rebut those issues and answer those questions that may have been raised by the other speakers. That will then mark the end of discussion, and the matter is then taken into the committee for a decision. Anyone on panel or staff, any declarations of interest to declare with respect to the matters before us this afternoon? None to declare. Thank you. Deferral requests. There was none on the consolidated memo. Are there any other newly arising deferral requests, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
Yes, item 22, 6 Yvonne.
Okay, so we'll call that one first. I think that's the only one. Okay, so I guess we can go back to start at the, we might as well deal with that deferral item. Item number 22. Item number 22, A, B, and C, 6 Yvonne Avenue.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Mike.
Okay, I was just checking, Mr. Flynn, to see who the speaker is for this matter, but you beat me to it, so welcome. You are the only speaker, and there's no one else here to address the matter. So please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. We have been chasing the plans examiner for weeks. I must have put 30 phone calls into him. He finally called me back yesterday. And what we were chasing for was definitions of height and basement and first floor, et cetera, et cetera. So the conversation was very revealing in that first he tells me that the new bylaw, 2013, is fully in effect and the old bylaws are no longer valid, which is important to know. And number two, that the definitions of basement and first floor have been changed, but it has not been changed on the website of the bylaw. Therefore, we are all stumbling around blind. However, he has now explained it to me quite well, and I understand it completely. So we are planning on making some significant changes to the basement height, to the first floor height, and some others that would be more in keeping with the bylaw and potentially more satisfying to the planning department. So therefore, we're requesting a deferral so that we can amend.
Okay, sounds reasonable. Members, any questions for Mr. Flynn, or can someone make a motion to have this matter deferred in order to be redesigned and re-evaluated for variances? Mr. Komura?
I'll move to defer so that the applicant can reprocess with planning.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that, Ms. Reddick, thank you. All in favor? Okay, Mr. Flynn, the matter is deferred. We'll see you back here again. Okay. Okay, so we can go back to item number 20, 5235 Steeles Avenue West. This is an application to maintain the existing parking deficiencies, loading space deficiencies, and landscape requirements for the proposed restaurant. And there are 5 variances. Madam Secretary Treasurer, can you do a brief introduction, please?
I sure can. There's nothing on file.
Okay. And the speaker for this matter is Stephen Key. Welcome back, Stephen.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. Sorry, I was muted. Again, my name is Stephen Chi, a senior planner from Design Plan Services.
Okay, so just a brief, there's no one else here. Just a brief 1-minute explanation why you're here.
Sure, it will be less than 1 minute. So the proposal is for a proposed restaurant to occupy unit 2 and 3, as shown on the site plan. All the variants are only to recognize the existing conditions, which will be maintained. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Right, and obviously that's, no one's has any opposition to that. Transportation, planning, neighbors, we haven't heard, there's nothing on file. Okay, members, any questions for Mr. Keyes or someone ready for motion? Mr. Taylor?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I see this as a technical application, recognizing what's already in place. I'm satisfied that the application meets the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move approval without conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconder for that. Mr. Palmer handling up first. Everyone else did as well, so I assume it's unanimous. All in favor? Okay, you have your approval. Thank you, Stephen. And good afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay, so item number 21 is 68 KILLAMARSH Drive. It's an application to construct a 2nd-story addition above the existing dwelling with 3 variances. Madam Secretary Treasurer, can you do a brief introduction of what we have?
We have photos of the property or the area and a letter in opposition from
Sorry.
66 KILLAMARSH Drive.
Sorry to
Okay.
interrupt. Through you, Mr. Chair, we did have the homeowner on the line, Romeo Ferreira, but they must have dropped off within the last 30 seconds. So maybe if
I think they're back now. They're back.
they're back now? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Sorry about that.
Okay, so there's only one speaker, the homeowner applicant, Romu Ferreira. Welcome.
Hello?
Hello, sir.
Yes, hello?
Hello, sir. We can hear you. Can you hear us? Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, this is for a 2nd-story addition above the dwelling with 3 variances. Seems rather straightforward. Do you want to advise the committee members of anything, or do you want me to just see if they have any questions? I don't think we need a whole presentation.
I really don't have much to add. So, yes, we had the survey done. We didn't, we had found a few things that we didn't expect, and yeah, and here we are.
Okay, and some of these are as a result of where the home is now, and you're just going to build up. Like for example, variance 1, the north side lot line variance, that's where the existing home is already, correct?
Yes, we're building exactly on the existing footprint.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for the homeowner, or is someone ready for a motion? Mr. Komorak?
Yeah, I have no questions. If no one else does, I'm ready to do a motion. So I find the application to be minor in meeting the 4 tests, and would like to move approval with no conditions.
Seconder for that. Mr. Taylor, thank you. All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. You have your approval. For item number 23. Okay, just hang on. Madam Secretary, I don't seem to have, hold on, looking for it. I have items 24 to 26 there. Okay, can someone do the introduction? Number 23 is 127 Queens Drive.
Yes.
Okay, and now we're into deferral. The rest of the applications this afternoon are from matters that were previously deferred. So this was deferred from November 10th, 2022. So Madam Secretary Treasurer, if you can do an introduction, please. And we have one speaker, Jim Wallace.
Yes, it's an application to construct a 2nd-story addition above the existing attached garage and a 2-story rear addition. On file, we have the previous minutes from the hearing, planning comments with recommended condition, and also the previous hearing materials.
Okay, Mr. Wallace.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so I don't think we need a presentation. Would you like to point anything out to the committee members?
Not at this time. We worked with planning staff to address their concerns of the encroachment of the eave as a part of the proposed addition over the garage. They wanted us to improve the condition. We agreed with their recommendation, and the eve of the addition no longer encroaches over the easterly lot line, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have to add.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Wallace, or is someone ready to weigh in with the motion? Mr. Taylor?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm satisfied that the two variances requested meet the four tests under the Planning Act. And I move approval subject to the Community Planning Department condition.
Thank you. Seconder for that? Mr. Komarek?
Just want to do a friendly, I believe there's a forestry condition too on it.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Komarek. I accept that friendly amendment.
Okay. All in favor of the motion? Thank you. All right, yeah, it's unanimous. You have your approval. Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Okay, our next application is item number 2452 Delma Drive. This matter was deferred from September 29th, 2022 hearing. We had altered the existing dwelling into a duplex with 4 variances. And can we get a brief introduction, Madam Secretary Treasurer, what we have on file?
We have the previous decision for the property, an email from the agent, planning comments with recommended condition, the previous minutes, and that's it.
Okay.
Oh, and the materials from the previous hearing.
Right. Okay. So speaker is Natalie Taleb. And I assume Natalie is.
Ms. Taleb, you're unmuted. We heard her during the mic check. Ms. Taleb. Ms. Taleb, if you'd like to log out and log back in, because we're not actually able to hear you. Mr. Chair, I don't know if you want to stand this one down and move on to the next one.
Yep. Okay, probably a wise choice. So we'll move over to item number 25, which is 5 Orianna Drive. This matter was deferred from the January 26, 2023 hearing. We do have a revised highlighted in yellow to show changes, proceeding by way of waiver showing changes. And it's to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 4 variances, 3 of those have been revised. And Madam Secretary Treasurer, you can revise what we have on file, please. I think you may be muted.
Yes, sorry, item 25. We have revised variances with the plans and waiver, an email from the agent, planning comments with recommended conditions, the minutes from the previous hearing, as well as the previous hearing materials.
Thank you. And the speaker, we have one speaker, Arlene Beaumont.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Arlene Beaumont, Outwood & Associates. We're the agents for the owners of 5 Orianna Drive. I have a presentation if you'd like to hear it.
Sure, let's have, I see you've made some changes. There is no one else here in opposition. But just explain, I guess, the changes that you made to the plan.
Absolutely. So there was some back and forth with planning, sort of last minute, as these things tend to be. So we did reduce 3 of the variants, as you noticed, as you mentioned. So first of all, variance number 2, the floor space index has been reduced from 0.58 to 0.56. Secondly, the proposed side yard setback on the south side is now 0.99 meters, and that is to a chimney breast. The rest of the dwelling is set back further than that, and I can get into that in a moment. The other variance that has changed is the lot coverage. Because we increased the side yard setback, the lot coverage automatically reduced a little bit to 35.18%. The dwelling length remains as noted on the notice. If we could just go to the site plan drawing, if you don't mind, please. There we go. Thank you. So as I noted, the south side yard setback, which is at the top of this drawing, is 0.99 meters to that chimney breast. The setback to the dwelling itself is 1.34 meters, which is in excess of what's required by the bylaw. And the integrated garage is set back 1.04 meters. So that pinch point, that 0.99, is just to the chimney breast. We did reduce the dwelling depth. Initially, we came in with almost a meter more in dwelling depth. And we have worked with planning. We've brought that dwelling depth back down to 18.01 meters. And we also worked very closely with planning to adjust the FSI down to something that they felt was acceptable. In terms of FSI, I did do a little bit of research. I looked at variances approved in the neighborhoods, specifically west of Browns Line, north of Horner. And there are two variances that were approved in 2022 that are particularly relevant, both for new homes. One was on Etham, and the FSI approved was 0.64. And the second was on DELMA, and the FSI there approved was 0.57. So in my opinion, we're very much in line, or even less than what has been previously approved just last year.
Okay.
And the last thing I'll mention, just one more thing, sorry. My clients did obtain a letter from the neighbor at 3 Orianna, that is the house to the south. The neighbor did state she had no objections to the variance, and those were the larger variances that were initially being contemplated. So she had no objections to those variances. I'm pretty sure she would have no objection to reduced variances that we're now proposing. I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Beaumont, for that presentation. Members, any questions for Ms. Beaumont? And if none, it's just the purpose of the deferral last time, just to.
There was the FSI variance was missed on our zoning review. In addition, planning did have some concerns about dwelling length at that time. So we worked on the plans a little bit with them, and they were great to work with.
Any questions or? Mr. Komorek?
No questions. I'm satisfied with the presentation and would like to move approvals, as I believe it definitely meets the 4 tests. So would like to propose we approve the revised, subject to the planning condition, which I believe illustrates the situation the applicant just described about it focusing on the chimney breast, tying it to the site plan of February 8th, and subject to forestry condition 1.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Seconded for that. Ms. Reddick, thank you. All in favor?
Sorry, I'm sorry. Is it too late to introduce a friendly amendment?
Sure, we didn't vote on it. Go ahead.
Okay. Minor point, but could we specify that we are approving the variances set on a revised agenda dated February 10th? Because there's also a revised agenda dated 2 days earlier that doesn't include the side yard variance number 3.
Yes, thank you.
So it
That
was,
makes sense?
so we have the date, and which is the later of the 2, correct?
Yes, February 10th.
Yep. Good catch. Just to clarify.
Okay, and the February 8th drawings are still relevant, though.
Yeah, February 8th captures the changes to variances 1 and 2, but I don't believe it captured the change to variance 3.
Right. But it's variance 3 that's at issue, that planning
Yeah, and on February 8th, the side yard was 0.91.
Yeah,
February 10th, it was increased to 0.99.
well, that's, so it's kind of contradictory.
Sorry, why is that?
Well, because if we're tying it to the drawings of February the 8th, then are we not tying it to?
Yeah.
So the plans didn't change a second time. They didn't update the variances correctly. So that's the second revision outlines the
Okay.
3 changes, the
So
GFA coverage and
so the plan
setback.
is still showing 0.99 as the distance.
Yes.
Okay, then I guess we're good.
Okay, so based on that motion, I think it was unanimous, correct? Okay. And thank you, Ms. Beaumont. Okay, so the next application is item number 26, 15 to 21 Milford Avenue. This is an application to construct a 1-story addition along the rear side of the existing buildings at 17 and 21 Milford. And there are 2 variances. And the speaker for this is Alan Ramsey. And Madam Secretary Treasurer can get a brief summary of what's on file.
So we have the previous hearing minutes, a tree protection plan, a cover letter, planning comments, which do recommend further revisions, I think. Let me just clarify. Yes, which is what they recommended previously. But that's not what's before the committee today. A letter in support from 24 Densley. In your additional materials, you have a letter in support from the counselor. There are 2 recommended conditions from planning, as well as a condition from urban forestry, and you have the previous hearing materials.
From January the 26th, 2023.
Yeah.
Deferred. Okay. Okay, so I see that Alan Ramsey is registered as the speaker. I think there was a different speaker when it was here back in January. It was Carlo Zozi, or perhaps not. Oh, sorry, you were the agent, right? It was his letter. You were the agent, sir. Okay, welcome back from January 26th.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, Taylor, if I may.
Yes.
We should be aware as well that planning staff have recommended that variance number 1 for side yard setback of 0 meters from the east side lot line be refused.
Okay, that's the 0 meter lot line that they're requesting.
Yeah.
One. Okay, that's the same as, the variance hasn't changed, has it? It's
No.
0. Yes, okay. Yeah, so that's very important. So good segue to turn it over to Alan Ramsey for please explain socially based on this negative planning report for variance number 1, why it should be approved.
Great. Thank you very much, sir. So my name is Alan Ramsey. I'm a planner who's been retained by the agent on this matter. The site contains a 1-story industrial building just east of Keel Street. The building contains multiple tenancies, and at the back of the building of 17 and 21 Milford is an existing covered canopy area that extends to the side lot line and the rear lot line. And the proposal before you is to enclose that existing covered section. That section currently is partially enclosed with a tarp and is partially open to the elements. So we're essentially maintaining the existing setbacks for the existing cover. We're just putting side walls on it. And I've prepared for you a planning brief, which is identified as the cover letter, where I go through the 4 tests for you, and it's my opinion that the proposal does meet the 4 tests, and that it does maintain the purpose and intent of the official plan. And it is, I would say it's generally consistent with the character of the area, given that and I wonder if we could go to the cover letter and go to the plan. That would be great. Just
Yeah,
waiting
we're
for
just
that.
having some problems. I'll try to get that up now.
Okay. Right, so that's the brief, and if you go in about 10 pages into the brief, you'll see a sketch. So a picture's worth a 1,000 words. So what we're doing is we are enclosing the area shown in light gray. Currently, it is covered with a roof structure. It just doesn't have sidewalls. And what I was saying before is that it generally is consistent with the character of the area. And if we go to the next slide, this is a slide that just shows properties in the area that have essentially 0 lot lines with respect to the side and the rear. So you can see that it is quite common in this industrial area to have whether they're accessory buildings or whether they're the main buildings to be located right adjacent to the lot line. If we could just go to the next slide. And this is essentially what is the existing condition, and the proposal is to merely put sidewalls on that structure. And the picture at the bottom is taken from the neighboring property, and you can see that it is a fairly I'll call it rough industrial area.
Yeah.
And then
certainly currently it is. Yeah.
Yes, it is. And then if we could just go to the next page. And these again are photographs showing the existing condition on the as you look from the neighboring property towards the subject land. So I think what I want to say is that from a perspective of the 4 tests, this proposal, as I have spelled out in my report, satisfies the 4 tests under section 45(1) of the Planning Act. That there are some staff comments which I want to speak to, and staff have
yeah, you're over 5 minutes, sir, but I'll give you another minute if you can please wrap up. Thank you.
Right. So staff have made 3 comments basically. Yeah. One is that they don't support the 0 meter setback because of the impact on the trees, and it's my view that the existing canopy, as you could see from the pictures, essentially doesn't impact the trees on the adjoining properties. The second staff comment was that they wanted some improved landscaping in the front yard, and my comment is that essentially this matter deals with the lands at the back of the building, and the front yard is not really affected by the application. And then lastly, staff have suggested that they could support a 3.5 meter setback instead of a 0 meter setback, and essentially that would, and they've commented that it wouldn't hamper the use of the building. And with the greatest respect, the tenant has said that that space is required. That 7.5 meters space is required from a functional point of view. The intent of this is to permit trucks to enter the building and load and unload, and not do it outside. And that would certainly be an improvement to the existing situation. So I would just wrap up by saying that this matter does satisfy the four tests under Section 45(1) of the Planning Act, and that we would certainly be agreeable to condition that to the forestry condition number 2.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Ramsey, so that was, I don't mind you went over, because I was going to ask you, what's your position on the 4 conditions from community planning? First of all, the refusal of variance, but just to point out, the refusal of the side yard setback, and then the imposition of the 3 others, the increase in variance 2, rear yard to 3.5, the landscape plan, and the LC. So what is your position formally on those conditions?
So we don't support the reduction in the variance from.
Okay.
And that we believe that the landscape plan, because it would deal with the front yard.
Okay.
Relevant to the application.
Okay. Do you have any proposed landscape works at this point on your plan? No.
No, sir.
Okay, so you're saying we're not doing landscapes, we're not giving you a letter of credit for landscape, even though the city says it should be cleaned up and there should be landscaping. I read their report quite carefully, and I'm familiar with the area, and I agree with you. It's a dog's breakfast and mess is shown by your pictures, but that's based on the current. To allow someone, I know this committee, there's some members of this committee, I don't know if they're all present here today on today's panel, who are very reticent to give 0 lot line setbacks. Certainly on residential and industrial, I don't think it's any different. Because what about the future redevelopment of those properties? The area could change. You're just down the street from, this is right next to near Spiducci Mercado restaurant. The area, so I'm saying you seem to be, we don't have any letters of opposition, but I think the report indicated there might be an opposition from the adjacent owners to allow you to build to the lot line. So anyway, that's my comments. I'll open it up to other members to ask comments. We just see a letter came up on the board from the councillor. So she's in favor of this application, or I can't read the letter in front of me. I fully support the application. Okay. So anyway, that's just my comment on this existing situation, and I'll open it up to see if the other members have any comment or questions for you.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Komarek?
I have several questions, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
First off, in the added material, there's also an additional letter of support. I'm assuming that's from the occupants directly to the rear?
They're to the rear, but they are to the rear and to the east.
So they're not the ones that would be affected directly by, I'm looking at it on Google. I'm trying to see. So they're kitty corner. They're not directly behind.
They are kitty corner, yes. So
they're not the ones that would be affected by the 0 lot line directly. That's someone else.
Right. That the Faith Mission who wrote the.
Yeah, no, I got it. I got it. So the direct, and we have no comment from those people, neither in support nor in opposition. The current structure, does it have foundations?
No, it's on posts.
So it's just on the surface?
Well, the posts have foundations, but
It's your
and the
photo A1. If you look at photo A1 on the board.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
So Mr.
you're,
Sorry, if I could just ask, so Mr.
Go ahead.
Kumar asking about the other neighbors. Did you or your client speak to the other neighbors, or you didn't think that was relevant?
My
Position-
client,
Yeah.
my client who has an office building on the adjoining street
Right.
spoke to the business owners close by, and so I believe he spoke with the party directly behind the subject lands.
okay, so when forestry is referring to private trees, they're not referring to private trees on your property then?
Well, no, they're not, because there
There are no trees on your property.
are no trees on our property. That's correct.
Okay, and sorry if I come back to where I was going with the post. So what's being proposed here is a full, like a full extension of the entire building. Like you're not just going to enclose the existing, like you're not just going to put partitions up between the existing posts.
That's generally the plan is to not put a new foundation footings in, but to use the existing posts.
So you're not going to dig for footings along the full length of that wall?
Correct.
Okay.
It's really just to enclose the existing structures so that they can use it in a more productive way than what they are now, because right now they're exposed to the wind and the rain and the snow.
Yeah, I'm coming at it from the forestry perspective and damage to the trees and the tree root systems, which could happen if you're digging full foundations, but will likely not happen if you're not. And that's where I'm trying to get the nuance.
All right, so that is correct. The proposal is not to put in new footings.
Well,
Okay.
once they have the variance, look at it here for variances. Once they get the 0 lot line variance,
They can do it.
whether they can impose it or put up plywood, like I don't know whether if you just want to, if it's done temporarily, I assume it's going to be done on a more permanent basis. But beyond what's done, there's the right that we are granting. That
No, I understood, and I got mixed up with the photos because the photo that there was one photo which showed an existing wall versus one that just showed the posts, and I wasn't sure if it was the existing wall that ran along that full length, or I gather that's not the case then. But okay.
That wall is that blue. That's the side of the building, but the previous photograph, which had a blue tarp structure, that's a tarp. That's a cheap tarp.
No, I understood, but below that it looked like there was a wall, but maybe that maybe I'm mistaken there. Okay.
Okay, anyone else have any questions for Mr. Ramsey?
No, yeah, no, I think Mr. Kamarick asked my question about the neighbors. That's what I was interested in.
Yeah, I guess we don't have anything from the neighbors, yay or nay, but the issue was properties get at some future time. Right now, it looks like a complete mess. They wouldn't even necessarily care. But if you give one property a 0 lot line, you're not hindering the adjacent property. I think it's we often, sometimes in resident, we often disagree with planning reports on residential specifically issues, and here on an industrial issue, I think we have to pay some attention to the planning the planning memo here. Not that we always don't, but I'm just saying in terms of what they have to say here. Does anyone have any comment on that? I know we have a letter from the counselor. She's in favor of this.
Sorry, are we in discussion or are we asking questions?
I guess we've heard from Mr. Ramsey unless he's asked another question, but you can certainly ask him a question at this point.
I don't really have a question. I've got a comment. I'm usually very much opposed to zero side yard setbacks and rear yard setbacks. Don't like it. It creates a functional encroachment on the neighboring property when you don't have permission for that. And it's a bad precedent. That being said, I don't agree with the planning condition to add landscaping in the front yard, because then that's going to could potentially create other issues with maybe parking and whatnot. And then if they're not meeting the landscape requirements, which I'm sure there must be landscape requirements in that area, such as a 3-meter strip along the road or something like that, does that lead to other issues? I'm also very sensitive to the operational needs of employers and the support from the local councillor about the number of jobs and whatnot. But I think really when you come forth with an application such as this, you really need to talk to the neighbors and look at the comments from the various departments and come up with some solutions that everyone's agreeable to, rather than problems. And I don't know that we want to be approving potentially future problems. That's kind of where I stand at with it.
Yeah, I share those concerns. I don't have a problem in granting variance 1 for the east side setback, but it's the rear setback at 0 that concerns me. And I think if we had heard from the neighbors, the immediate neighbors, and they were in support, I would be inclined to actually support this one. And usually I share Neil's concerns that I don't like doing 0 lot line. It doesn't look to me like it's completely 0 lot line because the posts are not, I don't know. But anyway.
Sir, if I could just add something, I'm not sure if it's appropriate, but if it, I can say one thing, that the existing posts are off the lot line. They're
That's
not.
what I thought.
But just to be cautious in terms of the application, we asked for 0 instead of 0.4 or 0.5. It was just caution, that's all. Secondly, if the matter comes down to whether to get a positive comment from the neighbor to the rear, then I would ask that this matter be deferred so that I can get that comment, because I'm from what I've been advised, they are in support of the application. They just didn't write a letter of support. That's all.
Anyway, I guess thanks for sort of good point, important thing that you weighed in. So I guess the committee could either go at 0.4, it sounds like, or defer. So you're giving them further choices, but it's up to the committee member to weigh in with a motion at this point. But you've added some food for thought with respect to that. I think the comment Neil made about the landscape strip, I think, it is a mess, and I guess the city usually takes the point, it's got to start somewhere. So if we make it a condition of granting some approval, you have to start somewhere on the street of, because what has happened in industrial areas, they need the area for parking or whatever, and no one provides it, and they have to start, I guess they feel they have to start from when they get the opportunity to start. So I just guess we won't hear further from with respect, Mr. Ramsey, unless you're asked a direct question. We're in committee now, so I'm just waiting for a motion at this point.
I just wanted to clarify that the applicant suggested that the only issue was the neighbor's consent, then he would defer, but I don't think that we can guarantee that there's not going to be an issue with the 0 lot line. So if considering that, he's still requesting a deferral. I'm prepared to support the motion for deferral, but I
Yeah.
think they has to look at the zero lot line issue as well.
Okay, so no one's made a motion to defer, but the issue, I guess, is he's giving that opportunity to, even if he gets the neighbor's consent, I guess, is community planning in favor? They didn't say subject, or if the neighbor says it's okay, they just weren't in favor. And I guess there's the normal 0 lot line, but if at least Mr. Ramsey has proposed maybe something to be more palatable to the people who normally don't like 0 lot lines of 0.4, that's another option, but I guess it's open. So the options are to approve it subject to what the city says, to refuse it, or to defer it. So those are the choices. Now, it's not being done until if Mr. Ramsey, even though he's taken up, we're in a relatively light day, 20 minutes or half an hour of our time to, at this point, defer it. We normally don't like doing that, but we have a little more leeway today. Mr. Taylor, we haven't heard from you. What do you think on this?
Yeah, I was just going to say, my inclination right now would be to refuse this, because I think there's more to getting a neighbor to say they're okay with this. I'd like to see a much cleaner report from the planning department. I share Mr. Palmer's general, well, I think all of us, none of us like 0 lot line, including the planning department. And I think the applicant needs some time to rework this. I would suggest substantially, to not only address concerns of neighbors, but to address the concern of the city. They always raise issues with 0 lot lines, or very small lot line, or narrow lot lines, about safety, access, maintenance of the building, issues that Mr. Palmer raises, many times. So, yeah, as I said, my inclination would be to refuse this and not defer it, to just enable the applicant to get a favorable letter from the neighbor.
If that's a motion to refuse, I'll second that.
If he gets it, I'll say this: if he gets a favorable letter from the neighbor, I will, I'm pretty sure, would still move to refuse.
Okay, so having said that, as a segue, are you prepared to make a motion? I think Ms. Reddick just said if you make that motion, she's prepared to second it, to refuse the application.
I'll move refusal on the grounds that 0 lot lines are not acceptable. They're not good planning. They're not minor variances. They don't meet the 4 tests. So my motion is to refuse.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that motion? Sophia Reddick, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 4-1. The application is refused. Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. I guess you understand the rationale for the decision. Thank you. Okay, now we move on to the last.
Mr. Chair, the agent for item number 24 is on the line, Natalie Talib. I don't know if you want to go back to that one.
Okay, go back to that one. Just hang on a second. Okay, this is 52 Delma Drive.
Correct.
To alter the existing dwelling into a duplex. There are 4 variances, and we have the one speaker. This matter was deferred from the September 29, 2022 hearing. And we have getting feedback for some reason. Does one of the speakers have 2 items open?
Miss
better.
Talib, do you have? I can see you're
it's
only
better
logged
now.
in here. No, that's because I muted her. Do you want to try again?
Okay.
Natalie, we're getting feedback from your audio. So you might want to
I think she
log.
may have YouTube running at the same time. She would have to close the YouTube feed.
Okay. Yeah, Natalie, just make sure that the meeting is only running on one device in your vicinity. I'm going to try again.
It is on one device. I'm not sure why there's the feedback. Do you still hear the feedback right now?
I don't.
No.
I don't. Wonderful.
Now we do.
I think
Now we do.
Feedback is still there.
Feedback appears to be in-house.
yeah, we're getting it only when we speak, not when she speaks. That better?
I have muted
Okay,
her
anyway,
now, but
I think we're good now. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Okay, this is to alter the existing dwelling into a duplex with 4 variances. I believe we already had it introduced. Madam Secretary, Treasury Advisor, planning conditions of approval. Is there anything else?
The only other, there's the previous decision and email from the agent, the minutes from the previous hearing, and the previous hearing materials.
Okay, and we do have, in addition to the homeowner Berta Olana to speak, we have 2 neighbors from 9 Strath Avenue and 12 Kingsway Crescent.
No, that's for 63 the Kingsway. This is item 24. Natalie is the
Oh,
only
right, sorry.
speaker.
Back at this one, I forgot, my bad. Okay, you're right, we're back in 24. So we only have the speaker who we couldn't reach earlier when we were dealing with that. So yes, correct. So, right, this is the alter the dwelling into a duplex. Is the speaker on the line?
Yes, hi, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Yeah, so it got deferred because planning was concerned with it being altered into a duplex. So since then, we've worked with planning. We had an interior stairway into the house in the basement originally to be removed. So since then, we've kept the stair down to the basement, so it's no longer a duplex, it's a single family home. The other thing that planning was concerned with was the entrance at the front. So we also worked with planning on that. We looked at other houses in the area, and we proposed landscaping in front to conceal the stairway. Those were the 2 major items that we worked with on planning, and we reached a resolution since then.
Okay, so the purpose. We're getting the feedback. Duplex, it's still a duplex, or did you say it's no longer a duplex?
It's no longer a duplex now. It's a single family.
Okay, Madam. What about the purpose?
It doesn't look like it was updated by our office. We would have to fix that to accurately reflect what is being proposed.
So would you be to make alternate? How come we're getting the feedback? I only have one item open. And I think it happened when I heard Stanley.
It's only when the agent is unmuted, there is something, it doesn't happen when she's speaking, but when anyone else speaks. So.
Okay, anyway, we're almost through. So you can deal with the wording, correct? It's not an issue.
So I would say it's a rear 2-story addition, a 2nd story over the existing dwelling, and a front 1-story addition, if the applicant can confirm.
Thank you for unmuting me. It's painful that I can't unmute myself. Yes, that is correct. It's a front addition. There is an existing front addition that's only 1 story.
And then a rear 2-story. And a second story.
That's right.
Okay.
This has gone through committee in 2019 for the addition. It was just the now adding into the basement that kind of brought us back to committee. So we've changed it since then.
Okay. Anyone have it?
Just a clarification. The planning is recommending tying to a site plan dated January 26th, which relates to the basement entrance and landscaping. I'm trying to, can the applicant point that out to me in the drawing package, because I'm having a hard time finding it.
I don't put the date stamp on the plan, but it's in our system.
Okay, but it is reflected on A201 then?
I have the site plan as A100.
Okay, hold on. Okay, but the site plan doesn't indicate the entrance door that's being referred to in that condition. Oh, yes, it does.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
it does. If you, yes, if you pull up
Yeah.
the site plan,
Yeah.
you'll see it. You'll see the entranceway there. You'll see the Hicks Hughes. We've put down the landscape, the number of shrubs, the heights.
Got it. Okay. I got the two staircases mixed up.
Okay, okay.
Thanks.
Oh, my pleasure.
Okay. Any other questions?
And I can confirm the plans are, we did receive them on January 26th, so that is correct.
Okay, I'm comfortable going forward with the motion unless anyone else has further questions.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm looking at the revised application page from, there's no date on it. Anyway, it says the purpose is to alter the existing dwelling and to construct a new front porch, third-story addition, two-story rear addition, and new rear deck.
I think you're on the wrong item.
I'm on number 24, 52 Delma.
Yeah.
Revised applicant's revision page. Again, unfortunately, no date, but it was with the material. Oh, it was with the materials from the September 29th hearing.
So that's the old materials.
Right. But what I'm wondering is, so are we we're no longer dealing with a new front porch, a third-story addition, a two-story rear addition, a new rear deck. We're just converting an existing building from a one-family dwelling to a duplex. We're not changing the building at all. Is that correct?
No, the purpose was incorrect. It wasn't updated by our office when they sent out the revised notice for this hearing. So they're
Okay.
building a new front one-story addition, a second story over the existing dwelling, and a rear two-story addition. It's no longer 3 stories.
Okay, well, I've got a problem with the notice then, because if I'm the public neighbor and I'm looking at this, to alter the existing dwelling into a duplex, I'm thinking, great, they're not doing anything beyond what's already there. All they're doing is, there'll be 2 families in this house instead of 1. And none of these additional things are clear from the purpose.
You're correct, sir.
Yeah. So I don't think it's a clear or fair representation of what's actually being proposed.
Okay, let's motion to defer, I take it. Mr.
Yeah.
Chair,
To correct the notice.
the correct and purpose of the notice.
Yep, the purpose section of the
Yeah,
notice.
it's true, when I just clarified, I didn't think, well, in that case, we're not reflecting what's going on here. Because they also are doing, even if you said internal alterations, but didn't say that.
No, that's right.
And especially, it's not just internal, it's internal with things that are going outside the existing building envelope. If it's just internal, that's a different story.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so motion to defer by Mr. Taylor, seconder for that motion. Ms. Reddick, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous. The matter is deferred. We'll see you back here again. Okay, thank you. Okay, so back now to the final item of the afternoon, 63 the Kingsway. This matter was deferred from the January 26, 2023 hearing. And we have the 3 speakers on this. We have the homeowner as well as 2 area residents.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, before you continue, there's actually been a change to the participant list. So the homeowner will be represented by Saba Al-Mathno. And we have actually 3 neighbors to speak. We have Mike Smith also to speak.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I saw that name when the matter was, when I reviewed the minutes from the January 26th that Mike Smith was on there. So now so we have the 3 neighbors.
That's
okay.
correct.
Good to know. So Madam Secretary, just can you just advise what we have on file?
Sorry, we have the minutes from the previous hearing, a tree preservation plan, 2 cover letters, an arborist report, presentation materials from the applicant, a planning report with recommended condition, 9 form letters in support, letters in opposition from 7, 9, and 11 Strath, 59 the Kingsway, 6 and 12 Kingsway Crescent. In your additional materials, we also had a further cover letter, opposition from 8 Kingsway Crescent and 56 the Kingsway. And then it looks like now there's a letter in support from 59 Kingsway Crescent. And then you also have the previous hearing materials.
Okay, so the first speaker is Sava Alma, agent for the applicant. Can I just ask you to just outline as part of your presentation the changes that were made since it was here? It looks like you were at 0.7 and now you're there are some changes. You have made changes downward, I believe.
Yes,
so if you outline that as well as why this application is worthy of support, as I believe there are neighbors here to make arguments to the contrary. So go ahead.
Absolutely. My name is Saba Al-Mathno. I'm from QBS Architects. I'm the client's agent. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of you for the second time. I'll be brief. This house was built in 1928. My client purchased it in the summer of 2022. You needed to do some renovations and extensions to accommodate their lifestyle. They relocated to the neighborhood due to one of the owners being a doctor at William Osler. So plus they fell in love with the neighborhood. So in designing, we toured the neighborhood and we used inspiration from architecture that did exist in the Kingsway, and plus some of the client's needs. Some of the changes that we did from the previous application to this one is we went through every single letter of objection that we got from the neighbors, and we accommodated that. So we reduced the FSI. We eliminated the 3-story variance completely. So now by eliminating the flat roof, the height reduced from 9.9 to 9.75. The allowable is 9.5. So in the platforms, we reduced the size of the balcony. We enhanced the privacy by adding privacy screening to that. The driveway, we reduced the driveway width, and really this variance is only occurring between the front wall of the house, like in that area, to allow for proper drop-off. We analyzed previous decisions that were approved, and they were all within or higher than what we have asked for in terms of FSI and in terms of height. We do have letter of support from planning because we worked with them closely between the first submission and second. Same thing with forestry and transportation. The client went door to door to the neighbors like 3 times before the hearing to drop off packages with my contacts and their contacts. If they have any questions that we will be more than happy to answer. No one came through. Then myself and the client went again on February 14. And she went again. So we were able to obtain 9 letters of support. And we believe our variances are minor in nature. The FSI variance in specific, its majority to it is due to including the garage and the FSI. And most of the square footage that's allowed, that's occurred is actually, it's happening within the roof line of the 3rd floor. So we believe our application is minor in nature and we seek your support. And I am here to answer any questions from committee members and neighbors.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. Members, does anyone have any questions for Ms. Alma before we hear from the neighbors? Mr. Taylor and Mr. Komarek.
You're muted, Don.
You're muted. You're muted.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, you referenced some precedents in the area where the houses are this size or even bigger. I'm most interested in the immediate context, and that would be north and south sides of the Kingsway, between Kingsway Crescent in the east and whatever the north-south street is at the next end of the block at the west end.
Prince Edward Drive.
Do any of your, sorry?
I think it's Prince Edward Drive North.
Okay.
Between Kingsway Crescent and Prince Edward Drive.
Do you have any precedents for homes this size or bigger on either side of the Kingsway between Kingsway Crescent and Prince Edward Drive North?
So through you, Mr. Chair, if you look at the page 35 of the presentation that I have. Sorry, committee, I sent a presentation for hearing day.
Yeah, and it's page 55?
Page 35. So there is a Google map.
We're just in the process of pulling it up.
Okay, thanks. Exactly. So these are the examples that we used, and they are numbered. So if you go to, so this is the proximity to our neighborhood. So then if you go to, for example, 59 Strath Avenue, the approved FSI was 0.71, which is on sheet 37. So 2 sheets down. Thank you so much. So this FSI was 0.71. And then 39 Kingsway, the driveway width was granted 6.71 meter. 384 Prince Edward, the driveway width was granted 5.81.
I think the issue was the FSI, not the driveway.
Yes,
width.
yes, because they are coming more, sorry. So 47 Strath. Also, it's the one after. So FSI was 0.72. It's number 2 on the agenda. And also they had a driveway. And 50 Kingsway Crescent. Floor space index 0.65. We're asking 0.66. And they have the height also here from 9.5 allowable. They were granted 9.9. And last one, 65 Greenview Boulevard, the FSI granted was 0.8.
Okay, thank you. I think you addressed my point, though. There's nothing in the immediate context. The Kingsway between Kingsway Crescent and Prince Edward, they're all outside. They're in the neighborhood, but they're not in the immediate context.
These are the items that we were able to obtain from previous committee hearings.
Okay. Any other questions? I think Mr. Mark, you also had a question.
I did, and I'm trying to remember what it was now. Sorry. Yes. I'm just looking at all the neighbors, and sort of there's a lot in support, there's a lot in opposition, but I'm not hearing or not seeing anything from the 2 immediate neighbors that are the most affected by it, and that would be number 65 and number 61.
My client went door to door several times to both neighbors, but she was not able to obtain a letter of support from both of them, but they are aware. In fact, like, you know, when our clients moved into the neighborhood, the neighbor to the right, like, he welcomed them and he said, we'll be like supporting them. I went with her also. We knocked on the door. No one opened the door. We left packages. So
I just observing that the two immediate neighbors are neutral at this point. They're not.
yes, and like if you look at our proposal, like the footprint in the front, like facing
Okay, we're not, I'm not, I don't want to get into those details. We can do that after everyone has their chance to speak. That's it was just an interesting observation. I just wanted you to comment on that. Thank you.
Mr. Palmer?
Yeah, question. So I was looking at the variances from the last hearing compared to this one here, and I noticed that the number of stories, that was a variance last time. It's not a variance this time, yet it's still 3 stories. Can you explain that?
Correct, because the 3-story variance applies only to flat or shallow roofs. So since we changed the pitch to, so now we don't have flat roof, we have pitched roof, then there is no limit on the number of stories for pitched roofs. Hence, the variance of 3-story got eliminated.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions, or we'll start hearing from the neighbors? And perhaps we can, as each speaker, we can see exactly where they reside in relation to the property. So the first speaker is on my list is Ian Mitchell from 9 Strath Avenue.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Are you ready for me to talk?
Yes.
Great. Firstly, I would challenge the purpose of this application to construct a 3-story rear addition. Beyond a reasonable doubt, this is not a rear addition. Anyway, that being the case, I've already tabled most of my comments in a letter of February the 13th. I'd like to review them in more detail now, and I'll read from my notes. I said, it should be noted that by the developer's own admission in his January 16th, the proposed development is essentially a 3-story flat roof tower on a small building lot. It is out of alignment with the architectural heritage of the Kingsway Park, and it will certainly have a negative impact on nearby neighbors. The tweaking of the roof line profile seen on January 26 does little, if anything, to change the substance of the proposal development or its negative impact on the park and the neighbors. The impact is especially negative on us being located at 9 Strath Avenue, directly behind the proposed development. It's hardly a minor variation. Looking at the utilization of space on the floor plans, the proposed building is more suited to an 8-bedroom rooming house than a single-family residence. In addition to the many concerns previously voiced by the many letters, we are particularly concerned with the inclusion of 2 platforms on the rear wall. These platforms directly over our rear yard, family room, and 2 bedrooms. The second floor platform off the second floor bedroom is approximately 12 feet wide with approximately 10 feet of sliding glass doors overlooking our yard. The bedroom itself is very large and is shown on the drawings with a sofa suite and a fireplace. It's more like a second floor family room than a bedroom. The third floor platform is also a direct line sight on your yard and windows. And although it's shown with privacy screens, I would estimate that within 6 weeks of occupancy, those screens will be removed. I'm not aware of other residents in the Kingsway Park having rear wall platforms overlooking neighbors, yards, and windows. 33 Kingsway Crescent overlooks a ravine. I don't know if it has platforms there or not, but it doesn't overlook somebody's backyard. The platforms represent a gross invasion of our privacy and the privacy of others, and the proposal should be rejected. Now, just as a point of interest, in the best interest of all homeowners in the Kingsway Park, the new homes or changes to existing homes and landscape be carried out with sensitivity to the original concept of the park, the overall landscape of the park, and with due consideration to the impact on neighbors. I believe the developer's proposal fails on all 3 counts. That's the end of my rant.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Mitchell? Based on what he's had to say. Okay. So the next speaker on the list is Mark Hilson of 12 Kingsway Crescent. And perhaps we can show on the map. We know that Mr. Mitchell is directly behind, so we can perhaps see where 12 Kingsway Crescent is in relation. And we have his letter on the board as well. Okay.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to the committee on this matter. My name is Mark Hilson. My wife and I are the owners of 12 Kingsway Crescent and 5 Strath Avenue, both properties having backyards that are both physically and in visual proximity to the above noted property, 63 the Kingsway. We strongly object to the application to expand the scale and scope of the property. It suggests that these variances are minor, which I feel is somewhat disingenuous, given that there's 3 of the 4 variances exceed the limits by a minimum of 31% to 100%. I don't think anybody on this call or in this meeting would agree that a 31.9 to 100% increase in their monthly budget would be minor in nature.
Yeah, sir, I'd like to hear more because we don't go by percentages. You'll be surprised how many minor variance applications are. So let's deal with the impact and not with the numbers. We understand numbers. We understand what the definition of minor and major, but please, if you can just talk about in the context, because sometimes 100% is considered minor. Depends what the number is. So just let's, I appreciate everyone, I think the same way as you, but the number argument is not the road you want to go down. Let's hear about the impact and what's typical and the prevailing character of the neighborhood. That's what we go by.
Well, I agree with Ian's earlier comments that I don't feel that the design and scale is at all in keeping with the nature of the neighborhood whatsoever. You can see that just looking around without needing to be an architect or a planner. More particularly, and again, consistent with what Ian just said, having a 3rd floor balcony with oversight into everybody's backyards, their bedrooms, their bathrooms, and everything else is really an offensive invasion of privacy. And we shouldn't have to live in a neighborhood where people have the ability to be peering over into your backyard and into your windows and having to keep your drapes closed all the time. And the modification made to this 3rd floor balcony with the, what I call a duck blind side panels, we all know, everybody knows here, that's just going to be taken down to better suit what is actually intended, but not shown here. So I really don't think it truthfully reflects what's going to happen in reality by any stretch of the imagination. So that's an issue for sure. And I'd also like to just comment on a couple of the letters in support that were submitted because many of them have either a non-existent or a remote proximity to 63 the Kingsway, and therefore those comments should be weighed accordingly. Specifically, the one from 59 Kingsway Crescent is a full half a kilometer away from this residence. It has no sight line and no physical proximity, and therefore has no impact on them. And furthermore, their letter is really from colleagues that they work with. So it's based on friendship, not on the facts. 42 Kings Lynn is 150 meters to the south with no sight line and no proximity. And 40 the Kingsway, the letter from them, is 210 meters south with no sight line and therefore no direct impact of these changes.
Okay, that's, you're at the end?
Yes.
Yeah, you note that Mr. Taylor in his questioning earlier did try to get the applicant to advise where her precedents were so that he went down the same path that he did in terms of where the precedents and the letters of support were from.
Okay.
Obviously the more directly affected people between the 2 streets on either end in the immediate vicinity. So any questions for Mr. Hilson before? And you own both 12 Kingsway and 5 Strath.
Correct.
Okay. So it's like having 2 speakers. I should have given you 10 minutes to speak if you needed it.
No, that's fine.
Anyway, okay, I'm only kidding. Next speaker, I guess, is our last speaker is Michael Smith from 9 Strath. No, sorry, not from 9 Strath, from 11 Strath.
11 Strath, yeah.
Right.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. We are the homeowners of 11 Strath Avenue, and we've lived here for over 20 years. We are the direct backyard neighbor of 63 the Kingsway. We share that with number 9 Strath Avenue. Because of the close proximity of our home and the direct sight lines, we are significantly impacted by the proposed development. We strongly object to the application. There are 2 principal reasons for our strong objection. First, the variances requested are not minor, either individually and especially when taken as a whole. And 2, well, from the perspective of the front yard renderings, the proposal may look somewhat similar to a few other houses in the neighborhood. However, because the applicant seeks permission to construct outdoor balconies on both the 2nd and 3rd floors, from a backyard perspective, their proposal is actually a huge precedent-setting deviation from the neighborhood norm. Therefore, the applicant's proposal does not meet the 2nd test, is not a desirable or an appropriate development for the neighborhood. Because you don't go into numbers, I'm going to skip my comments I was going to make on the percentages, but I would say all 3 of these variances are not minor, it seems to me anyway. So I'm going to switch gears and talk about, as you instructed, the impact. So why do we strongly assert that from a rear neighbor perspective, the proposal is actually a significant precedent-setting deviation from the neighborhood norm? Well, if the applicant's height, gross floor area, and balcony variations requests are granted from our backyard perspective, it will feel like there's a small apartment building overlooking us. This will significantly impact not only us, but our 5 other backyard neighbors. This is by no means an exaggeration. Our houses are not that far apart. Specifically, the applicant is proposing to build a large outdoor balcony with, as Ian Mitchell said, 10-foot wide, approximately 10-foot wide sliding glass doors leading onto a approximately 12-foot wide balcony on the 2nd floor. And on the 3rd floor, where there'll be 9-foot ceiling height, they want to build a 2nd balcony. Because of the height of the 3rd floor balcony and the large size of the 2nd floor balcony, the occupants, and there could be many, of 63 the Kingsway will have direct sight lines into our backyard. 2 of our bedrooms, our kitchen, our family room. Our neighbors will suffer a similar loss of privacy. The intrusion is unprecedented and out of step with the character of the neighborhood. No other house in the Kingsway would have that level of privacy invasion. We at numbers 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13 Strath Avenue, as well as 12 Kingsway Crescent, which is also a backyard neighbor, as you already heard, all strongly opposed the applicant's proposal. Backyard neighbors count. It's not just the front of the house that matters. Committee members, there's a lot at stake with your decision. 6 backyard neighbors stand to lose the look, feel, and privacy of living in this unique historical neighborhood. And there would be a new precedent set for the entire Kingsway neighborhood. In conclusion, we're not saying that the applicant doesn't have the right to rebuild its property. Quite the contrary, we're happy to see neighbors improve their properties. What we're saying is that the proposal they made is not appropriate and the permissions they seek should be denied because they fail to meet the first 2 tests. The variances are clearly not minor, and the 2 backyard balconies are highly intrusive. They're double what's permitted, and they're unprecedented for the neighborhood. Consequently, the proposal is not a desirable or an appropriate development for the neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith, and thank you to all the neighbors for not mentioning percentages and concentrating on impact and the prevailing character of the neighborhood and the definition of what the neighborhood is, as honed in by a couple of the members in their questioning. So if no one has any questions for Mr. Smith, we'll return to the agent, Saba Al-Mathno, to respond to the concerns of the neighbors.
So thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity. And I wish the neighbors had, contacted us when we sent to them the letters of objection, the package again, so we could have resolved that. If it seems to be the balconies are the major concern, so we will eliminate this variance altogether. So we will
Sorry,
eliminate.
you're in rebuttal right now. You can't be making revisions.
So
we're not. Yeah, this is not it's a hearing. So as Madam Secretary said, you're responding right now to the concerns and questions raised by the neighbors, not to start redesigning based on what you heard.
So we.
What's before us is what's before us.
Sure. So what we have, we believed the changes we've done by adding the security screens, which we could make them permanent. You could see in the front, we are proposing a wall. It's not like one of these flimsy screens. On the sides, this could be a permanent wall as well to enhance the privacy. And then this is basically, and there is a perception that it's a new home. It's not new, it's renovation. And the height of the existing house is actually 10 meters, and we are reducing the existing height of the main house. So we are more than 30 centimeters lower than the height of the existing house. And as I said, the driveway access from the street, it's all existing to remain. The only area that it triggered the variance is between the main wall of the house. In that area only, this variance existed just to allow easier a drop off for groceries and parking the car over there. So this is the purpose of the driveway. Definitely my clients, and this is a family home. There is no intention to be apartment building or anything, and the clients are very private as well. So they don't want to invade anybody's privacy as well. There are two huge trees in the backyard at the moment. They are existing to remain. So this also enhances the privacy. We can also discuss with the neighbors if they feel like adding screening on the windows. We are more than happy to do that. But definitely the intention of our clients when they moved in to the neighborhood, not to cause any trouble or any harm or disturb the neighborhood. No, they came to the neighborhood, they fell in love, they want to be part of this neighborhood. And the fact that we worked really closely with planning, transportation, including the neighbors. I left my business card and the packages that we distribute door to door. It had my phone number, the client's phone number, and we asked if they have any questions, clarifications, please contact us. And when we went knock door to door, we were there to answer any questions and to come up with any suggestions if they had. But unfortunately, no one opened the door or no one contacted us. So until the letters of objection showed up again. So as I said, these are the considerations that we did, and we are not here to cause any issues or to disturb the neighborhood. We do believe, it's minor in nature because there is the existing house is there, and it's not a new house that we are doing. And as I said, most of the square footage is really within the roof line.
Okay, is that all you finished? I'd like to sum up, please. Yeah. Okay. Any questions for committee members? We'll bring it into committee and let's do some questions for the applicant on a rebuttal. Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Just wanted to ask the applicant, balcony proposed for the third floor, are you required to provide that by building code?
Correct, because the building code says.
No, I know what the building code says, but just because that is a third floor, so you need
Yes.
egress or a place
Correct.
of shelter. So
Correct.
that's not optional. I mean, you can't eliminate that one.
Correct.
Okay.
Because you can go one story only to a means of egress.
No, understood. So if you're going to eliminate,
I will eliminate the second floor.
the
Correct.
second floor, not the third floor. I just wanted that to
Correct.
be clear. Okay.
Correct.
Anyway, that's right. Not what's before us is the plans that have been provided. I guess if she eliminates that variance, but then the concern of the neighbor is we for sure don't want the third floor balcony. The second floor balcony is one thing, but it's a third floor. That's what's I've heard is unprecedented. So
I understand, Michael, but
Yeah.
the point I'm trying to make is that if
Yeah.
that variance did not exist,
right,
that third floor balcony would be there anyway.
or what you're saying would be permitted as of
right.
Lose that. Right, but then the neighbors are saying, well, it's a third floor. Anyway, whatever it is. So actually, it's a good point, though. So is the agent formally withdrawing that particular variance from her proposal? It's not designing on the fly. You can drop. So are you prepared at this point, because we're getting into committee to consider the application and make a decision? Are you at this point dropping that option, dropping that particular variance? What variance is that? I'm just trying to pull it up here. Variance number?
3, I believe.
Okay, so are you deleting that as we go and take this matter into committee for a decision?
Absolutely. I'm deleting the platforms by eliminating the second floor balcony.
Okay, you're limiting. Well, I don't know what you're limiting. You're dropping the variance, is what you're telling.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so thank you very much for your presentation and for your rebuttal, and thanks to the neighbors. We're now going to take this matter into committee for a decision. So unless you're asked a direct question, we're taking this matter into committee to discuss. Okay, members. Discussion, decision, motion.
I'll just a comment, just share Mr. Taylor's concern in terms of the FSI comps not being in the immediate context. They're in the broader neighborhood, but certainly not in the immediate context. And I would question whether you could say that that coverage, and we're talking about a 450 square meter house, it's not a small house, whether that's probably not the prevailing character for that area.
Yes, and that's really what I was getting at. This is, the area they call Kingsway Park. It was the first street built by Holmes Smith in the 1930s. And the character of that street hasn't changed in the 73 years that I've been on this planet. And I'm quite sensitive to any proposal that alters or has an impact on that. So yeah, I was curious to see whether the agent could point to a house or two along the street that is close to the 5,000 square feet proposed here. She was unable to. So yeah, that's where I was coming from.
Okay, so someone have any more comment, or is someone ready to weigh in with the motion?
I'm prepared to make a motion. I think my colleagues have pointed to the fact that this proposal is out of character with the immediate neighborhood. So therefore, I recommend refusal. It's not desirable and not in keeping with the neighborhood, not minor. So I recommend refusal.
Thank you. We have a seconder for that motion. Mr. Taylor, all in favor? The application is unanimously refused. Thank you to all parties. Thank you to the neighbors. And we are now done for the afternoon. So a motion to adjourn. Mr. Taylor, seconded by Mr. Kumoric. Thank you very much. Thank you to staff. Thank you, Olivia, for being the host today. And I guess we're adjourned until next time.
Yes, and members, don't forget next week you're coming in person for that trial run in council chambers.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Looking forward. Okay.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Barb,
Be
has
well.
that been changed to 10 o'clock? Or, because I think you had originally indicated 9:30?
Yeah, show up for 9:30 and then that way we can get everything set up.